This is the third Tuesday of the month Waupaca City Council meeting.
Night of meetings. We are going to start with the public hearing for the Inland Lakes District, and we'll begin with that. This is a public hearing just giving an opportunity for people to speak in favor of the budget for the coming year or against the budget for the coming year. So I'll call this meeting to order, and I'll ask Sandy to take roll for us.
Brian Smith.
Here.
Steve Hackett.
Here.
Lori Chestnut.
Here.
Paul Hagan. Alan Keeland.
Here.
Scott Perchatsky.
Here.
Dave Peterson.
Here.
Paul Mayo.
Here.
Dimitri Martin.
Here.
Mary Fair.
Here.
And Eric Olson.
Here.
9 present. We have a quorum.
The purpose of the hearing, there was a public notice. It was public notice, City of Waupaca Inland Lakes Protection and Rehabilitation District meeting. Notice is hereby given that the public hearing and annual meeting of the City of Waupaca Public Inland Lakes Protection and Rehabilitation District will be held on the 20th day of August, 2019 at 6 p.m. in the council chambers. And that's what we're doing right now. So at this time, then, I would entertain, and let me explain something before we really start so you understand. We are doing a public hearing for people to just discuss truly the only item on the agenda tonight is the budget for 2020. And we're just going to ask for testimony in favor of and then testimony against. We're not here to answer questions at this time. After we have the public hearing, then we'll go into the regular meeting of the Inland Lakes. And then at that time, if you have questions or if we have questions of you, we'll certainly ask those at that time. So knowing that, let's go ahead and do the public hearing. If there's anybody that would like to give testimony in favor of the Inland Lakes budget and agenda for tonight, please step up to the podium, give your name and address for the record, and limit your discussion to 3 minutes or less.
Hi, my name is Sandy Testa, and I live at 218 East Lake Street in Waupaca, and I am part of the Friends of Mirror and Shadow Lakes group. We have been working for almost a couple decades now to protect particularly Mirror and Shadow Lakes. And I'm here to speak on behalf of our group in favor of the resolution which I believe everyone has a copy of. Is that correct? I think this last weekend kind of highlighted our lakes with 1,000 people coming for the triathlon. I have 4 kids who grew up learning how to swim at South Park Beach and then put in about 20 years together being lifeguards at South Park Beach. I think that South Park Beach is one of the places that people all over come to learn to swim that might not have access at other places. So I think that protecting these lakes is really important. The Friends group has been working diligently to try to keep invasives under control, but the needs have gone beyond what we are able to do with hand picking and also what we can do with our staff. The lifeguards work really hard to pick some of the invasive, but we have needed to hire divers to work on some of the Eurasian milfoil, which we cannot reach by pulling off the top. So we are not qualified to do that kind of work as volunteers. In order to be eligible for some of the state DNR grants that would help us pay for some of these costs, we need to update our lake management plan, and we also needed to put in some extra hours of divers pulling weeds in Mirror and Shadow Lake this summer. So that's part of the extra costs that are needed and that are being requested. I think that's it.
All right. Thank you, Sandy. Anybody else that would like to give testimony in favor of the subject of the inland lakes? Any other testimony in favor? All right, any testimony in opposition? Any testimony in opposition? I will declare the public hearing closed then at 6:05 PM. And we'll go right into the Inland Lakes Protection and Rehabilitation meeting. Today is Tuesday, August 20th, 2019. And for our roll call, we have the same commissioners that were here, or the city council members that were at the public hearing. I would be looking for a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Keelan, second by Chestnut, that we approve the agenda as printed. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carried. And again, just a little bit of history on the inland lakes. We meet on an annual basis. It's usually the second meeting now in August that we have, but we try to hold that in our August meetings. And basically what you're doing is setting the budget. Council, you're setting the budget for the next year. And there are some changes to this year's budget, as Andrew Whitman will explain to us as we get into the meeting. We have minutes from last year's meeting, which was held on August 21st, 2018. If there are no changes, then we would need a motion to place those on file.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Peterson, second by Olson, that we approve of the minutes of the annual meeting on August 21st, 2018. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carried. And so we're right to resolution number IL 48, which again, as I've said a number of times tonight, is really the budget for 2020. And Andrew Whitman, I think we're going to have you lead us here.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, council members. You can take a look at the proposed budget on page 7 of the top packet there. So what this is a kind of a continuation of the conversation. Sandy touched on it briefly about a lake management plan, the overall course of the Inland Lakes operating budget as we move forward. The start of this was the question of me looking for money for aquatic invasive species, or AIS, management grants, with some discussion with the DNR. Taking a look at our old lake management plan. It's old, and it doesn't touch very much on AIS, and there's been a lot of changes in our 2 inland lakes since that point. So they said that we wouldn't have much of a chance unless we redid our lake management plan. So we've worked with a company for a proposal as far as a lake management plan. They come very highly rated. Other lake districts close to our area have used them. We met with them several times. They took the time to do that, answer all of our questions. So the long-term goal here is to get this lake management plan done, study the AIS in our lakes, and if needed, move towards AIS management grants with the DNR to kind of take care of our lakes and do as much as we can with the grant money. You can see this year, first time in a while, that there is a proposed property tax revenue. I'll continue discussing kind of what we're trying to do, and then Kathy may touch on how that affects everything moving forward. So you can see the top line, proposed property tax revenue of $10,000. The next line down is actually the money from the grant, if received. We would only move forward with this lake management plan if we were to receive that grant for that. So that's the total revenues on top. Down below, you see our normal budget is the advertising, miscellaneous supplies, and a little bit of the contract services. The rest is that grant and the actual lake management plan in there. So you can see it kind of gets us back to a low estimated balance on hand at the end if we keep continuing moving forward how we're doing everything at this point. After some internal discussions, between a few different people. Moving forward, the plan would be to try to build this fund back up as we try to find more projects to do. So inland lakes isn't just necessarily, I know we focus a lot on our, Shadow and Mirror Lake, but it is our rivers that run through our area. It is storm water sewers. Did I say that right? Storm sewers as well. So there's a lot of different projects that we could be using this money for to make everything a little bit better around here. So moving forward, the plan would be to build this up and move forward with a request of that $10,000 each year. That would be something that you would vote on every year. And if we built it up and you felt like it's at a place where you need it, then, that's up to your discretion as council members. But that would be the plan moving forward, and we can touch on that if you have questions on that as well. So that's really the proposal as we move forward here to 2020. And maybe Kathy can touch on the tax impact a little bit.
Sure. The levy of the inland lakes is a separate line on the City of Waupaca property tax. This will be the first time since, I believe, 1979 that a line will show up on the tax bill. Based on the state's latest release of equalized values, the impact is about 2 cents on the levy rate. So on a $100,000 home, it would be about $2. This levy then would also be restricted in coming years that under levy limit law. So under the levy limit, like we have this year, we only have a 1% net new construction. So we would be limited to the maximum that we could raise this levy by 1% for the following year, or if we had this in place. So we had to make sure that what we were setting was going to be sufficient going forward with the levy limit law.
All right, council, any questions of Andrew or Kathy? That was Kathy Kaza, by the way, to our finance director, that was just speaking on the tax impact of that. Dave, Pete.
If we got the grant, would that have to be renewed each year too, or is that a one-time deal, or how does that work?
The grant would just be the one-time deal. It would just pay for the lake management plan, which takes about a year and a half to complete. And so, yeah, that would just be a one-time thing. Now, maybe the next year, because based on what we get for answers from that lake management plan, maybe we're going after AIS or Aquatic Invasive Species Management grant, and taking a look at that to try to work to continue to reduce the aquatic invasive species in our lakes. So this is, to me, it's more of a stepping stone to continue keeping our lakes the way we need them, because we rely on them so much in Park and Rec and as a community.
Any other questions from council?
I have.
Al?
There was a survey done in July of the lakes for aquatic invasive species. Do you remember what the results of those are?
You're talking about the Point Intercept survey, I do believe, and that's done by Golden Sands each year. That kind of sets up where we're sending the divers and stuff. This year, I don't know specifically where all the points were. I know Mirror Lake was worse off than Shadow Lake. I think the divers did a pretty good job. The one day they came and got a lot of what they could see out of Shadow Lake. Mirror Lake, we actually brought them back again based on having enough money in the proposed budget for this year. And they did 2 times in Mirror Lake, and they got quite a bit, but there was quite a bit more in Mirror Lake, and then they found even more deeper as the divers go down. As Sandy was talking, we can deal with, and the lifeguards can deal with what we can see, but there's a lot more to those lakes. So Mirror Lake didn't have a great year, we'll call it, but as far as exactly where it is, it's spread out pretty much all over Mirror Lake, and just 4 or 5 points in Shadow Lake.
All right, any other questions? Let me say this first. If you're in the audience and you would like to say something or ask a question of Andrew or Kathy or the council, please step up to the podium and give your name and address. We are broadcasting this on TV and radio also, so we want to make sure that your voice is heard on that broadcast. So is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this budget for 2020 for Inland Lakes?
Hi, good evening. David Wood, 300 East Lake Street. Just a question for Kathy related to the taxes. The proposed line item that you're referring to, is that a citywide, or is that just strictly for property owners that live on the lakes or rivers?
The Inland Lakes District is made up by the full city. It's the contiguous border, so whatever is in the city would get that line item.
It's considered
So
in the district.
But it's a separate district.
Okay.
Okay?
I understand.
Yeah, when the Inland Lakes was set up, it was to include the whole city in there. You could have narrowed it down, but when our fathers before us decided to do this, our mothers and fathers did this before us, they decided to include the whole city in the Inland Lakes community, even if they are not on any of the waterways.
Sure. So it's more of a watershed type boundary versus just a shoreline. Okay.
That's correct, David. You know, and like I mentioned before, we focus a lot on Mirror Lake and Shadow Lake, but it does take care of all the other watersheds, the rivers and everything else. So we could use that money for projects with our other waterways as well, and I believe that's why it was set up the way it was.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Sure.
My name's David Drasia, and I live at 212 East Lake Street. And my home is on the north shore of Mirror Lake. And I feel that a lot of good things have been done by FOMSO, but we're missing an opportunity to try to solve a problem that's been around for about at least 10 years. And I'm referring to the algae situation on the north shoreline of Mirror Lake. It's gotten worse over the years, and I believe that there's a known solution to it. When we had our last management plan, one of the things that and that was done by the University of Wisconsin at Stevens Point, and one of the things that they noticed was that there was algae growth on the North Shore. And they suggested that we put in some tap wells on some of the property on the North Shore and test the groundwater. Well, I was asked if I would allow a test well to be put on my property as well as one of my neighbors, and we did that, and 3 were put in. And when they did the testing of the groundwater, they found that there was a tremendous amount of phosphorus that was flowing from the groundwater into the Mirror Lake. Now, the phosphorus, of course, is one of the things that causes a lot of problems in the lake. And at the time, right before this algae started growing, they happened to be putting the new sewer line between King and down through Waupaca. And it was felt that perhaps there was a leak in this sewer line. Well, the city was very good, and they tested the sewer line, and it was determined there was no leak in the sewer line. So that left us with the problem of, well, where is this phosphorus in the groundwater coming from? Well, at the time, FOMSL did not felt they wanted to get into other things, and of course this would require testing and perhaps some consultants. So nothing has literally been done for at least 10 years, and the situation has gotten a lot worse. If anybody took a kayak ride across the North Shore today, they would see a lot of algae, anywhere from 10 feet to 40 feet along the shoreline of Mirror Lake. And much of it is very thick, and this has not always been the case. I've lived here for 20 years. When we first moved here, the water was quite clear along the shorelines. You could walk in it, you could see the bass and other fish by your docks, and you could put your boats out. And that is no longer the case. There's a lot of algae. It gets worse every year, and I believe something should be done about it. So I would like some of the money in the future to address the problem of where is this phosphorus in the groundwater coming from. And I'll ask for one simple thing, and that's simply that I still have a test well in my backyard, which I don't believe has been used by anybody for at least 10 or 12 years since that first time. And my neighbor has a couple of them. And that at a very low cost, one could at least test the groundwater for the phosphorus. If there is a lot of phosphorus in the water, then I suggest we try to determine where it's coming from and do something about it. If the phosphorus has disappeared, fine. If none of those options are desired by FOMSL or the city, then I would like somebody from the city or FOMSL to remove the pipes and the ground wells that have been sitting in my backyard for at least a dozen years. So thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thanks, Dave. I'm sure Andrew is taking notes here, so I'm sure he'll at least be able to answer that in the future for you.
Yeah, and I know part of the lake management plan and some of the stuff we talked about with Onterra LLC was the phosphorus, and that will definitely be part of what they're studying. And how they go about that, I'm not 100% sure, but it will be part of it.
Okay. Anybody else in the audience? All right, this is the time where you decide whether you approve of the resolution or not with a motion.
I move to approve resolution number IL-48.
Second?
Motion by Keelan, second by Martin, that we approve of resolution number IL-48, which is actually the budget. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Steve Hackett.
Aye.
Lori Chestnut.
Aye.
Alan Keeland.
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
Dave Peterson.
Aye.
Paul Mayo.
Aye.
Dimitri Martin.
Aye.
Mary Fair.
Aye.
And Eric Olson.
Aye.
9 ayes, motion carried.
All right, and that's it for the Inland Lakes tonight, so we'd be looking for, council members, don't get up and walk out now, but we're looking for an adjournment for this Inland Lakes.
So move.
Motion by Hackett.
Second.
Second by Chestnut, that we adjourn the City of Waupaca Inland Lakes Protection and Rehabilitation District meeting until our next meeting, which will be sometime in August of 2020, subject to call. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carried. Thank you for attending. You obviously can stay for the council meeting if you'd like to, which we're going to begin right now. And I will call this meeting to order. If you, I'll give you a couple of minutes if you do want to leave, because we'll. I would like to recognize somebody in the audience. I see he's getting up and ready to leave, but Gene Sorensen, Gene Sorensen, who's the former Public Works Director. I'm probably the only one here that was on City Council at the time that he was the Public Works Director in town. But Gene,
it might be a good time to come down and get caught up. It's been 23 years since I've been in this chamber. And I am enjoying my retirement. Thank you.
all right, regular City Council meeting. I call this meeting to order, and as always, let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we'll ask Sandy to read the clerk's open meeting statement for us.
This meeting and all other meetings of the Common Council are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the press in accordance with Wisconsin state statutes, so that citizens may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting.
And also take roll for us.
Brian Smith.
Here.
Steve Hackett.
Here.
Lori Chestnut.
Here.
Alan Keeland.
Here.
Scott Perchatsky.
Here.
Dave Peterson.
Here.
Paul Mayo.
Here.
Dimitri Martin.
Here.
Mary Fair,
Here.
and Eric Olson.
Here.
9 present, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Sandy. Under consent agenda, I see you have a few items that you need to tell us about.
Yes. Under number 5, consent agenda, letter A, monthly reports. The Finance Director Treasurer's report for the month of August was uploaded to the city website. And also under number 5, consent agenda, letter D, the approval of bills were also uploaded to the city website.
All right, you've seen those items. We'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda unless you would like to see an item that's on the consent agenda moved to the regular agenda where you would just vote on that individually. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Olson, second by Fair, that we approve the consent agenda with those additions. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Under the regular agenda, we have, you have one handout that ended up on your desk tonight, and that has to do with Rock the Block program. It is in your packet also, but it's nice to have that in front of us, and there'll be a presentation on that later in the meeting. Sandy also tells me that we need to, tell me what we need to do here, Sandy.
Well, number 9, new business, letter I, the taxi driver's license. The applicant pulled his request, so we can pull it off the agenda.
Okay, so just cross that off your agenda. Otherwise, we have that one addition and that one deletion, and we'd be looking for a motion to approve the regular agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Fair, second by Peterson, that we approve the regular agenda with those changes. Discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Against? Motion carried. All right, next up, we actually have, and I hear that Peg is making her work, so she doesn't have to come tonight, but we have a plaque, a wood plaque, which means you've been here a long time if you get one of these. But this is a plaque to Sue Abrahamson for her 25 years of service to the city. And Peg, if you would accept that and thank her for that. Thank you. Okay, and next we have a presentation, the annual report for the Waupaca Municipal Airport Runner Field. This is the annual operations report, and we have Beth Christensen, our airport manager here. Beth, hi.
Hi. Thank you, Mayor, and the council members. It's been an eventful year yet again at the airport. Belleville Farms did an excellent job with their snow removal again this past snow season. It was a long, tough year for snow removal, but we were able to get through it with no major issues. I am working with Andrew Tremble from the Bureau of Aeronautics to start on the design and reconstruction of 1331, and I am looking to obtain new snow removal equipment for 2020. The EA chapter that we have at the airport has hosted several events at the airport. They also built a float this year and have participated in 3 area parades to help promote not only their chapter but the airport and Plain Guys Aviation as well. So it's been very nice that they did that. They also host their monthly meeting on the second Saturday of every month at 10 a.m. at the terminal. Their next event will be a hamburger social on August 27th at 6 p.m. at the airport, of course, at the Bruner Hangar. Everybody is invited. It isn't something that's just made for pilots. It's open to the whole community, so everybody is invited to come. They are serving tacos. For all the events that we've had at the airport, we've had the Waupaca Humane Society actually had their annual rummage sale at the airport for the first time this year. They said that they actually made quite a bit of money more than they have in the past, so they're very excited. And they are looking forward to coming back to the airport next year for their second year at the airport for their rummage sale. So it's nice to get non-aviation related people out at the airport and using our airport for events. We also had the Waupaca Caregivers Coalition host their 3rd annual Ageless Aviation Dream Flights for the Veterans. This is the first year Wisconsin has their own aircraft. It's called the Spirit of Wisconsin. So they are looking forward to next year's event, and it went very well without a hitch. We were able to fly all the veterans that they had signed up for the program, so it was very exciting. We also had the Sheriff's Department out for EVOC training for some of their new officers. They did use the airport again for that. It went very successfully. They had no problems or any issues there. The Lions Pancake Breakfast actually had an okay turnout for the weather that we had. They had over 540 adults and 90 children. They did only serve from 7 a.m. to noon, so we had all those people come through in the morning. So it was very nice to see that. And they are planning on coming back next year, so I guess there's been some rumors that they weren't going to do it, but I spoke with some of the chair people at the Lions Club, and they said they definitely will be back this coming year. The Cherokees to Oshkosh hosted their 10th year at the airport. Their group has increased from 29 planes to 40. So 39 of those planes were able to make to the trip to the EAA or Oshkosh. And the nice thing is they were able to do it before the tornado came through. So it was nice not to have those planes on the grounds at that time. The Piper Cessna Flyer Group was also back for their 15th annual year, and they did host all their seminars at Par 4 for their group, and they said they're at least 80 strong and growing also. So we do have all those people from literally all over the world coming to Waupaca to participate in their group things also, or their seminars. We also had the privilege to host a Japanese group. They are the ones that came to the EAA this year with their jet-powered glider. They were so excited and so thankful for the use of our hangar and the time they spent here. They are looking to actually come back and spend about 6 months at a time, but they're looking at the year 2021 to come back. So they liked it so much that they're planning on that. I also did have some of the firefighters use our airport for the aerial truck driving training for their state training, or their state testing, excuse me. So they said that went very well, and they appreciated the use of the airport for that. I think it's a really good thing, too, that they're doing it because they get to know our airport a little bit better. So if there ever is an issue out there, the firefighters and the police department and everything are familiar with the grounds, too. So that's nice to have that. So with the EAA traffic, we had a slight decrease in numbers due to the weather and the power outage that we had at the airport. We had to deter a lot of the airplanes to other airports that actually had power so they could get fuel. So we did lose out on some of the fuel and that for those few days that we were without power. But we did still have 806 passengers, 855 operations, 521 piston aircraft, or the smaller aircraft, came in. We did increase our jets from 13 to 24, so we had an increase in jet population come through this year. And then 459 of those planes that came through were being transited from all over the nation versus anything of our people that are actually at our airport. We also sold 5,193 gallons of fuel, even though we did lose out on those few days of fuel without having power, so we still did good with the fuel sold. It was also nice. I had over $500 of cash donations as thank you because of my staff and everything that we were able to help out people and offer them hangar space when needed and everything too. So that was nice to have that on top of fuel sales. So a lot of nice, generous people this year. And other than that, we're looking for another eventful year next year and hopefully not too much snow this fall. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Beth?
Yeah. Have you given any thought to standby generation?
Excuse me?
Standby generator at the airport?
Oh, a gentleman came in that works for Generix, and he was looking to talk to me, but I got to figure out, unfortunately, with our airport, they don't give you the specifications of what you need for generators to run. I do know it can't be a mobile generator, so I do have to get a building and a generator and everything else. And I did talk to Andrew from the BOA, and there are some programs we might be able to get a generator through the BOA program, but most likely we'll be on our own for having to get a generator, which is definitely, I think, a good idea, especially when it comes to the fuel farm, so we don't have what we did this year. It's okay to put candles in the bathroom, but yeah, so I am looking into generators.
Candles on the runway, too. Yeah.
Right. Hey, whatever needs to get done, right?
Right. Dave.
My question has to do with the snow removal. You're going to buy some new equipment, evidently, I've seen. Is that the equipment that Mr. Long uses, the Bellevue Farms, or he uses his own equipment, or?
Both.
Both.
So the snow equipment that we have that is actually owned by the airport is a little over 10 years old. So we're actually able to get new equipment from the BOA, but Mr. Long does have his own equipment also. And the problem is with our equipment, we're tending to stick thousands of dollars every year into it to keep it maintained. So that's why we're looking to get all new of our equipment, and we're hoping to be able to upgrade it so we can use more of just our equipment for the airport versus Mr. Long's equipment. So, but it's definitely something that's needed, so.
Anybody else? Any questions? Beth, thank you for
Thank you.
coming again tonight and giving us your annual presentation. Just a little bit of a programming change for council members. We're going to do the department head reports after, obviously after this next presentation, but then also after 9A. If that's all right with you. We do have some people in the audience that I'd like to accommodate there. So let's move on then to a presentation by the Greater Fox Cities Area Habitat for Humanity, Rock the Block.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it. Council members, thank you for your time. My name is Ryan Roth. I'm the Director of Community Development at Habitat for Humanity at the Greater Fox Cities area. And I just want to take a few minutes. I know I only have a few minutes, so I'm going to take them and share with you about Rock the Block. I do have a PowerPoint, but I don't have control over your TVs.
We have somebody that's an expert on this, so he can help you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Everything. You guys are very accommodating. Thank you.
Hopefully. Did he switch computers?
Very good. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So Habitat for Humanity, I just wanted to go through here real quickly. So we do new construction, we do home repairs, we have restores, we do all kinds of things related to affordable housing. I'm talking about one aspect of what we do, which is Rock the Block. It's a new program that started in 2015, and we've seen a lot of great success in neighborhoods, a lot of impact for families in improving their housing, and I just wanted to share with you about that for just a few minutes. To do so, I wanted to show a video, and I'm not going to show the whole thing, I'm just going to show a few minutes of it, but I think it really shows what Rock the Block is maybe better than I can explain it. It shows what's actually happening during the event, so I'm going to start that.
The Rock the Block area is from College Avenue to Summit Street to State Street to 4th Street area. What we do is we're helping out about 30 projects in this area.
Rock the Block is a community effort to expand what Habitat for Humanity's been doing on a small scale, just to get the entire neighborhood involved, the entire community involved.
To fix up their homes for a minimal cost with all volunteers. They're only paying for the cost of the materials. Most of this is a deferred loan up to $3,000. It's deferred until you sell a house.
It's amazing. It's unbelievable to think that there's a program like this and that people like myself can actually get in on this program and have all this work done for practically nothing.
Yeah, this is my 10th year.
10th year?
Yeah, it's been 10 great years. It's a great way to spend time. The camaraderie with other like-minded people is just terrific. That's how we put vinyl siding up. If you've watched us climb up and down ladders all day, you'll know you don't have to spend money for Y membership anymore. And when we get all done, the best part is the people who live in this house are going to live in a better house than they lived in before, and everybody else in the neighborhood is going to have a house that looks better than it did before, so the whole neighborhood gets spruced up. I don't know how you can spend your time any better.
it's the pride of helping out. I was part of this neighborhood for almost 27.
Saw how that works. We bring volunteers out by the hundreds. They come from the communities that we work in, the neighborhoods that we work in, and then we look to work on four things. We want to assist the low-income residents. We want to transform the neighborhoods. We want to improve the quality, the neighborhood pride there, and improve the quality of life. And the presentation, I think, will show those points as we move forward through it. It's not just Habitat coming into the neighborhood. It takes a community collaboration. So we'll be working with the city. I've met many members from the city already, and appreciate the support and interest, and I know we're going to have a great success together in that, as well as we work with the schools and other nonprofits to work in the neighborhood, work with the police department, with the fire department, on installing smoke detectors and things like that. We've been doing this since 2015, so we have a pretty good track record that can show that when we go into a neighborhood, it improves the neighborhood and there's lasting impact from the work that we have done. Over 330 projects since 2015 to date. So we do up to $7,500 worth of work, depending on the repair need. And it's a zero interest deferred loan that the homeowner pays back when they sell their house in the future. So they have a leaky roof right now. They can't afford to make that necessary repair. We can come in and help them out, and they pay that back when they sell their house in the future. That money that's paid back then is used to invest in the community again, the same type of repairs. Homeowners are required to participate in the repairs as they're able. We don't work for people. We're not a contractor that just comes out and works on your roof, replaces your siding, replaces your windows. We work with the homeowner. Now, of course, there's a caveat. So if you're not physically able to climb a ladder, if you're not physically able to help in the repairs, we work with them at whatever capacity they have. We do work on some landlord-owned projects and commercial properties, depending on our capacity for the amount of work we can do, but they pay 100% of the cost up front for that. We do all kinds of exterior work. We'll do siding, windows, vegetation removal, replace roofs, you name it exterior-wise. In the picture here from the bottom to the top, you can see the windows. There's plastic on the windows on top. They had mold growing on the inside of those windows. They had leaks into their basement from that front stoop, which we replaced. We replaced the roof, reseeded the lawn. A lot of neat, meaningful improvements there, as well as we build equity for low-income families. So we had a family that we came in and we gave an estimate to replace 17 windows on their house. It was about $3,000 because we're using volunteer labor, including our staff, construction staff, and volunteers. That material portion is about $3,000. The homeowner was floored. She just had an estimate done a few months prior for $15,000 for the same repair. You can see by that example, we're building equity now in this low-income family's home, as well as saving on energy costs. Every homeowner we work with has a unique and powerful story, and this homeowner named Nancy is no different. Her front porch was falling apart. I walked up to it. The left-hand rail was laying on the ground. The right-hand rail was soon to join it. The steps were rotten. The deck boards were rotten. It was in bad shape. And I walked up to her house and knocked on her door and talked to her about Rock the Block and what we'll be doing together in the coming months. And she was excited. She applied. She was approved into the program. So Rock the Block is happening. We have volunteers on her front porch taking it apart, rebuilding it. And that 8x8 post by her left shoulder, they took the decorative casing, if you will, off of the old one. And it was so rotten on the bottom that it was only bearing by a 1/2 inch by a 1/2 inch. And Nancy grabs me and she pulls me to the side of the house away from all the volunteers, and she says, "Thank you so much. You guys do the work of God. I hoped and I prayed for a solution to my porch, and you came up and knocked on my door." And it was a special moment, but what was so special about it is she was thanking me because I was the messenger, but who she was really thanking was the volunteers that were there sweating, that were fixing her front porch, and the sponsors that made it possible for her as well. We do community projects, and in Waupaca will be no different. We haven't identified what we'll be doing yet, but we look to improve resources in the neighborhoods. We work with churches, schools, parks to do exterior improvements for those. We work with the high school kids. They can come out and be, depending on their age, part of the project, or they can utilize other skills they have to be part of, in a different way, part of the event. And then resident impact. And there's a lot of information here, but I'll just key in on the one up from the bottom. The survey that we took said 91% have noticed neighbors making improvements since Rock the Block. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to create that spark that starts neighborhood revitalization in that neighborhood for years to come. And 91% of these residents saw improvements happening post Rock the Block. And this event happened almost 4 years ago. To see, there's rental properties have been converting to owner-occupied properties in that neighborhood at a higher percentage rate than the city as a whole. We're seeing great things happening in that neighborhood. So currently we're in Menasha working on a very large Rock the Block event there, and that's going to take us through the fall. And then we're looking to come to Waupaca in the spring, in May, and have a Rock the Block event here. Each event, it costs $400,000 to make it happen, and that includes, we do our event with, typically we have 25 to 30 projects that we work on. Every community is different. It just depends on the response and the need, but we anticipate we've seen about that average where we've gone. We do new construction and home rehabs in those neighborhoods. We do home repair projects. And then we also have homeowner education and other programs that we bring with to help homeowners. So since 2015, we've completed 11 events. And as I was mentioning, those different types of projects we do in the neighborhood, the work continues. It doesn't end. So when May comes and goes, and we had our Rock the Block event, and we've done 25 to 30 projects, our commitment to Waupaca doesn't end at that point. We'll still be doing rehabs, new construction, and home repairs and other things in this community for years to come. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I just yield back to you.
Well, if you don't mind, can you just touch on the money part of it? Sure. And the donations?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I kind of glossed over that pretty quickly. But yeah, we had a meeting maybe a year ago with Tim Neville and Chris Anthony and some others, and we talked about Rock the Block, and they heard about it. We did this in Brillion in the spring of this year, and had great success in the work that we were doing there. And so Tim and Chris and we shared about this, and they wanted to bring it here and spread the word. And so far, through their generous donations and many other donations, we have about $300,000 raised out of that $400,000. So we are well on our way. I see no reason why we wouldn't meet that. This community has embraced this. They understand what it's the power of what it can do, and we're excited to be able to work together to make this happen in the coming months.
Thank you. And so if somebody wanted to make a donation to this project, do you have a website or somewhere where they can?
foxcitieshabitat.org, and then there's information on there on how to make that happen, or they can call our office.
Okay. Awesome. Any other, Scott?
How long a duration is Rock the Block? Is it 1 day, 2 days, a week? Or
Yep. So it's going to be long. It'll probably be about 5 or so weeks. Okay. But what you're going to know is happening is about 3 to 4 days. So we'll have a general volunteer component where we'll have hundreds of volunteers come out for 3 days, and then before we'll be doing pre-work, and then after that we'll be closing up loose ends. Just so you know, we reach out to all residents in Waupaca. We've sent a letter out. You probably received it. We don't target residents, so you might be like, well, why did I receive a letter? Are they saying I got a problem with my house? No, we let every resident know about what we're doing with Rock the Block, and then they can determine whether they want to call in or contact us. And then we'll be doing door-to-door outreach in the older parts of town near the downtown.
Sure. Any other questions or comments? Well, thank you for thinking of Waupaca, and obviously you mentioned Tim Neville and Chris Anthony. I'm sure there are many others too, but it's great that they are thinking of helping our community too. So, thank you.
Great, thank
Looking
you.
forward to it. All right, let's just do the public input part of the meeting and then we'll move on here. Public input, this is for non-agenda item. If there's anybody in the audience or staff or council members that would like to speak on a non-agenda item, just please give your name and address, limit your discussion to 3 minutes or less. Anybody on a non-agenda item? All right, let's move over to number 9 then. And we'll go back here. But number 9, this is license report number 1457, which is in your packet tonight. This is a Class B intoxicating liquor license and Class B fermented malt beverage license for Simpsons of Waupaca LLC, which is located at 222 South Main Street, and Daniel DeHay would be the agent for these licenses. And I know Daniel and his wife are both here tonight. Basically, Daniel, do you want to speak? Sure. Okay. Awesome. Again, just give your name for the record and go ahead.
My name is Daniel DeHay, and my wife and I, we are purchasing Simpsons on Monday, and we're here applying for these licenses, and we appreciate your time and answer any questions that you folks might have.
All right.
Oh.
Any
Welcome.
questions? Comments? So, any plans? I mean, are you planning on staying open the whole time? I mean.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
And really going to keep the tradition of the Simpson family and really try not to change anything in the near and short future. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some evolving of the business, but really keep the tradition of what the Simpson family has started.
All right. Well, good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
We would need a motion then. So basically what you're doing is you're changing the agent, but you're also, the owner is, instead of Simpsons Indian Room Inc., is Simpsons of Waupaca LLC. So you're doing two things with this motion.
Move to approve license report number 1457.
Second.
Motion by Keelan, second by Chestnut, that we approve of license report number 1457. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Hopefully everything is that simple, right,
Yeah.
as we go through this?
Are there also B and C? Do we need to talk about those as well?
Which is the dance hall?
Dance hall.
Let's do those then too, okay. So they also have a dance hall license, which is license report 1458. And then they also have license report 1459, which has to do with their amusement devices they have in there. And again, this is just changing because of the sale. So we would need approval of both of those license reports.
I move to approve license report number 1458 and 1459.
Sure,
Can
we
we do
can-
them together?
We can, if you want to.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Second move.
All right, so we have a motion by Fair, second by Hackett, that we approve of license report 1458, which is a dance hall license, and then license report 1459, which is arcade amusement device license, and these are both for Simpsons of Waupaca LLC. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, so 1457 also has the holiday. Jane Severson.
Well, okay, so we're gonna,
She's here.
I get it, Sandy, give me a second, all right? All right, so here we go. Next, and I don't know why they are together here, but they're two different licenses, but license report, Sandy is telling me 1457 has to do with this next one, which is a Class A intoxicating liquor license and a Class A fermented malt beverage license. And this is for the Holiday Station, which we know also has a liquor store there. So I guess, who made the motion 1457.
I did.
And I
Okay.
seconded.
And will you
And I'm-
amend your motions, both of you?
Yes.
Motion and second, so that we can include those in there. Jane, did you want to say anything? I know you're here tonight. No, I'm just waiting for you all. Okay, sounds good. Any discussion? Again, so we'll vote on it again. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. All right, let's go to, if we go to D, this has to do with the temporary Class B license for a GAPE, I think it's pronounced, Help Center, and Kelly Cook. Agape? Okay. Oh, you are here, okay. Okay.
It's Agape Health Center.
Can you stand up, Gina, to the podium, please?
I don't have to go with you. Okay.
Come on up.
Come on.
We're all kind of scary, but come on up.
Okay, so I am here for Kelly. We have an application for a Class B retailer's license for our first annual fundraising banquet, which is on October 24th, 2019. And he sent a bunch of stuff along with me, meeting minutes and things like that. He said I needed to bring it.
I'm assuming that Kelly has talked to staff, because it's here.
Yes.
And so do you want to just summarize what you're planning on doing? This is going to be at the Danes home, right?
Correct. Yep, Agape is a 501c3 ministry, pregnancy center, and Christian community center. So we do mentoring for at-risk youth and parent training. So on October 24th is our first fundraising banquet. So at the Danes home, we'll be having a raffle, silent auction, music, and a banquet, and a couple of keynote speakers. So.
And it is a nonprofit, so
Correct,
they
501c3.
can apply for this license, and then we would have no issues with that. What a guy to leave you with this, right? Yeah.
I know, with 10 minutes
I'll tell
notice.
Any questions or comments for Gina? Okay, then they are, and staff is recommending that you approve this license or this application for them to have this event. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve the temporary Class B license.
A motion by Peterson, second by Hackett, that a temporary Class B retailer's license for Agape
Yes.
Help Center be awarded for an event at the Danes home on October 24th, 2019. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's keep going here before we go back to the department head reports. We have a ordinance number 0619. This is an ordinance under City of Waupaca, Chapter 3 for Finance and Taxation, Section 3.05, Purchases, Appropriations, and Payrolls, amending Chapter 3.05. And Russ, we got your name on this, so you want to explain to us what we're trying to do here?
Thank you, Mayor. Basically, this is a proposed amendment and a draft ordinance for your consideration, which would add language in Section 1 to allow for cooperative purchasing agencies or other government purchasing programs may be utilized in lieu of the three written quotes for operating expenses. Section 2 also applies it for capital outlay and expenditures. And it's important to note that when the city takes advantage of bids from other governmental units like the county or the state or other governmental programs, that doesn't relieve those agencies or programs from doing the three bids. What it means is if we're participating in a county bid or a state bid, or if there's like a group purchasing bid, they're doing the bidding on behalf of the city. So we take advantage of maybe a larger group purchase, which is fairly common. And then the last sections in 3 and 4 is a renumbering, and it calls out that we do have a policy for professional services procurement. That was actually approved in 2005. We're not changing the policy, but we're referencing it into the code. The policy has to be amended by the city council action. It's just not a staff action that can change that policy. And at the time the policy was presented in 2005, it was actually presented as a code amendment. At the time, it was you were given advice, or the council at that time was given advice that it should remain as a policy, which is what we simply are doing, but we're just calling it out for and placing it in the city code to make people aware that there is a policy in place. So those are basically the changes to chapters 3.05.
All right, so this is the first reading of this ordinance, so you are not going to be voting on this. This will come back at your September meeting, which is what, September 2nd, 3rd? 3rd? September 3rd, whatever the first Tuesday is. September 3rd, and then you will make a motion and vote on it at that time. But we certainly would take discussion at this time if there is any. If not, then we'll just bring it back to our September 3rd meeting, which is our first meeting in September. All right, then we also have another ordinance, ordinance number 0719, and Russ, you're on tap for that one also.
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance was discussed with the employment agreement for the new city administrator, Aaron Jensen. It's simply changing the dismissal from a 3/4 vote to a 2/3 vote. You actually approved the employment agreement, and Aaron has signed the employment agreement, acknowledging that term for termination. This is simply amending the code to make it in compliance with what was agreed in the employment contract. I don't know if there's specific questions, but that's the changes to section 1.12.
Okay. So again, this is the first reading, so you'll see the second reading, and you'll vote on that at your first meeting in September also. All right, as long as we're on a roll here, let's talk about police cars. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. A month ago, I had talked about the police department getting 2 new squads. We proposed a few years ago putting our squads in a 4-year rotation to try to limit the maintenance that we have on the vehicles. What's happened over the years is we've kept them for a long time. We've had to replace transmissions, power steering pumps. Recently, we just replaced a water pump in a squad. And in order to do that now, they actually have to pull the full engine out to replace that water pump. So we're looking at going on an even number of years of getting 2 squads and an odd number of years of getting 1. So what I had done is I sent out 3 different bids to different companies. We had one from Ewald, who has the state bid for Wisconsin. So what happens at the beginning of the year is all the dealerships apply for the state bid, and Ewald was awarded that state bid. Each squad came in at $32,805 from Ewald. I did receive a bid from Clintonville Motors, which was $33,235. And over the weekend, I did receive another bid from Frick Ford, which was $33,233.70. So by going with Ewald, we're saving approximately $860. So at this point, I'd be asking that we could go ahead and we could put the order in for those cars, because what it'll do is it'll take us probably, I'm guessing, at the earliest, end of January or towards the end of February when we get those cars.
Okay. Any questions Brian, of the chief? If not, we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Motion by Chestnut, second by Hackett, that the council approves of the request to purchase 2 squads from Ewald Automotive Group at a price not to exceed $32,805 each. Any discussion? Again, remember, this is for, even though we're talking about it in 2019, this is a 2020 budget item, so Kathy will make sure that this is put in our budget for 2020. Okay, Sandy will call the roll.
Eric Olson.
Aye.
Mary Fair.
Aye.
Dimitri Martin.
Aye.
Paul Mayo.
Aye.
Dave Peterson.
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
Alan Keeland.
Aye.
Lori Chestnut.
Aye.
And Steve Hackett.
Aye.
9 ayes, motion carried.
Let's go to, skipping around all over. Remember, I is gone. We'll do H last. Let's go to J. This is license report number 1461. This is just an operator's license, so let's get that one out of the way also. Again, operator's license, our bartender's license, you have the list there. We would need a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Keelan, second by Chestnut, that we approve license report 1461. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. All right, let's go back then to department head reports. Kathy.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members. My report was filed separately because I'm trying to get as much as I can done, and it's a little bit behind getting it to Sandy. So I'm going to be the first one to talk about FEMA and the storm, but we had approximately $103,000 estimated in expenses that we submitted to the county for the storm damage. This cost was for the debris removal and keeping the sanitary sewer lift stations running during the power outages. We have filed and received approval of our own property damages with our insurance carrier, and I'm just finalizing those costs now with them. We did find out, based on me being at the airport board meeting, that we do have business interruption insurance under our new policy with MPEC, which is our property insurance fund. We have $50,000 coverage of business interruption insurance at the airport, at City Hall, and the balance, another $50,000 spread around the other buildings that we have, so that if we do have any power outages in the future, we can claim. So we will be claiming the lack of, or the loss of revenue for the airport because of the EAA, which is her main selling time for fuel, which we average about 2,000 to 5,000 a week when they're out there. So it'll be part of our full claim. We'll have it under one deductible, so we should be able to help in recouping some of the lost revenue based on last year's sales from EAA. So I'm working on that. I've attended a couple of meetings. I'm trying to start the 2020 budget process, but other business keeps getting in my way, sorry. But hopefully now that I have Russ on board and Aaron soon to be on board, I can devote all of my time in getting the 2020 budget up and running for everybody. You will be seeing probably the first one will be the capital budget. So I want to make sure that everybody is on board with what we're looking at for capital and what we're looking for debt service next year. My first little PR type of announcement is that based on my involvement now with the taxi service, I've talked to Carl with Brown Cab, and the city now will be selling their 10-ride punch card. So if you wanted to, instead of going to their business to pick it up, the library has both senior and regular cards. The senior center has senior cards available, and the city hall clerk treasurer's office does have both. In the clerk's treasurer's office, if you wanted to use your credit card, you could use that to purchase the ride cards. They're 10, and the regular card's $42.50, and the senior is 30. So we're trying to help the taxi get ride fares out there for everyone and make it more convenient for them. But I don't have anything else.
Thanks, Kathy. And the idea, of course, is to be able to take credit and debit cards because so many of our people no longer know what cash is. So, and you have to pay cash if you just get into the taxi. So this will help them to be able to use their cards then. Going back to the budget, Kathy, and I'm sure this is probably one of Aaron's first tasks, but we have not set a calendar yet for the budget process. Do you see us having any extra meetings in September?
I don't see us having extra meetings. The way we've done it in the past, we've kind of done a committee of the whole after the council meeting. So I'm looking at doing the same thing, that we'll continue to do it at the same Tuesday that we have council meetings.
Okay.
I don't see any issue with going forward with that. By the time we get to the operating budget, it'll probably be late October, early November that we'll be bringing that. But the first one definitely I need to look at is the capital budget.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Kathy. Any questions, comments for Kathy? Peg, library?
Thank you, Mayor Smith. The library actually went to H.H. Hinder and sold walking tacos on August 9th, and the proceeds then are going back to purchase ebooks and e-audiobooks. We find that the demand for downloadable material is greater than the actual amount of material available, so we were going to supplement our income a little bit for that. They are having a back-to-school party on Thursday for those kids who are heading back in a few weeks, and it'll be STEM activities, so science, technology, engineering, and math. And of course, we are the place for summer learning for the kids who are out of school. Our student library advisory group took a hiatus while we were getting a new teen librarian, and it is back in, reformed, and ready to help the library meet the needs of teens in the community. So we're really excited about that. We have a new set of programs starting in the fall, and part of our tagline is to connect. And so we're really concentrating on creating community by connections with different people. You'll maybe notice the turquoise table on the front lawn, and that is an initiative to get people to talk together, to sit down and have a conversation with their neighbors or meet somebody new in our community. So that's just one piece of what we're doing to create a more connected and compassionate community. If you check our website, you'll see all kinds of great programs starting. Dr. Jack Rhodes will be starting again with his film series on the first Thursday of the month. And then our Lunch and Learns will start as well. We have a man who's done marathons in every state of the union, and he's coming for our first Lunch and Learn. And then we also have a new health series that's available for everybody who lives in the community. So please go to our website and see all of those details. Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions, comments for Peg? So my grandkids love to sing this song, and this is twice that we've talked about tacos, so it's in my head. So you're also going to have to listen to it. Yeah, maybe I won't get it to work. No, never mind. Okay, I'm sorry.
Love it.
Justin, you ready? Ready to bail me out? Here
Absolutely, Mayor. Let's move on to more serious matters, please.
Wow, coming from him.
Something, huh? Public Works update can be seen on page 13 and 14 of your packet. And as usual, starting the wastewater side, Sam Zabel, our newest member of the wastewater treatment team is an OIT, which operator in training. He's going to be attending a class to be certified in the lab, which is important for them guys down there. Our lab schedule is a rotation, so each month a new guy is in the lab. It is not the most favorite thing to do because you're stuck in a white lab and doing that work all day. So they're looking forward to Sam continuing his training, and he's doing a great job thus far. We advertised some proposals and received for rehabilitating some tanks down there. We had some questions, so we're in the middle of kind of a question and answer period. I wanted to have that to council already, but we're going to have a slight delay on that, but I'm fully expecting to bring that forward to you next month. We do a mercury acceptance program, by and large kind of required through the Wisconsin DNR that we do this. We do more than just treat sewers or treat sewage. We have several programs like this where we accept and try to mitigate pollution just throughout the community. So we had a roundup, and it was sponsored by the wastewater treatment plant. We disposed of 12 pounds of mercury from the area. It was fairly expensive to get rid of, but at least it's not going down the drains, it's not getting into our rivers, that sort of thing. With the recent storm, we are starting to look into getting a backup generator at several of our lift stations. In the past, we've talked about it. Not all of the lift stations have backup generators fixed and present there. We have 2 portable ones that we drive around or tote around in these events. We're usually able to keep up. This event being the whole weekend, we had one of our lift stations down for a full week. It was a lot more trying this time, so we're looking into this. We've up until this point have talked about it, but it's something we'll probably put into our budget into the future. On the street side, the Granite Street design has just begun. We met with the designers early on. Survey work should start soon. Evans Street is open. I saw Chief Hosel had a speed report on there. It looks like their efforts out there have really helped cut down the speeders, even though the road has gotten wider, which usually promotes quicker speeds. So thank you out to the PD for helping us make that project successful. If you haven't noticed, we installed new banners around City Hall. So we have new banners around the whole square and on Main Street now. Those are transferable. As you can see, they're on our new poles. We put them same poles up on Main Street. We can reuse those again. The storm damage, of course, that took a long time to clean up. We got it now. Working through a couple of those different grant applications and getting that stuff prepared and submitted. We're hoping to get that all ready by the end of the month. With that, a lot of our equipment has been running, mainly our sweeper. I'd like to note that our street sweeper runs probably every single mile of our city at least 3 times each year. It does sweeping before and after special events, storm events, that sort of thing. It is on our capital plan to replace next year. So we've been sticking a lot of money into this piece of equipment just for maintenance, much like Police Chief Hosel mentioned before. When our equipment gets older, it takes a lot more to maintain. So that's just on our docket for next year. Water side, all of our wells are back online. We had that well rehab that I have talked about frequently. The bandstand had a makeover. If you didn't notice, it was completely repainted top to bottom, and we got new lights on it. The lights are LED and programmable, so if you have requests for different colors, we can facilitate that, but we have a schedule. We'll maintain it. A lot of effort gets put into working with the large groups, the triathlon, the arts group. Oktoberfest is right around the corner. The city and these groups work together to make these big events successful. A lot of those have been going on, so enjoy them while you can, and the weather. And finally, the Gusmer expansion, working with that, seems to be right on track. The city has done everything to keep that moving. Our road and water main plans are ready. So we're just waiting for that early September council meeting for the dedication and vacation of Shamble Road to realign that road, and then the project can get kicked off and running. So Rest is informational.
Thank you, Justin. Any questions, comments for Justin? All right, Andrew, number one, Andrew Whitman, Parks and Rec.
Thank you, Mayor, Council Member. So the Senior Center has still been doing some work on Serenity Park. Over this past week or two, they had some people come in and finish some mural. If you haven't been able to see it, it's quite amazing. Being myself a non-artistic person who can't draw stick figures, it's pretty amazing how much they can do in a day. So take a walk sometime, take a look at how nice that park is coming along, and understand a lot of that work is still being done by the fundraisers that they're doing. The money to come to pay those people who did the mural came from fundraisers as well. So take a look at that. This Friday, they are also having a senior appreciation potluck I saw on their calendar at 11 o'clock. As far as parks go, if you haven't heard, we did have a storm. I just wanted to I told Justin earlier, and I also thank the guys from the street department. I think all of us worked together very quickly after the storm, even coming in on Sunday. We helped them, they helped us a lot, and it was very helpful to us. It would take us a very long time with two people to get all those trails and everything cleaned up. So I want to thank those guys for that. We're working with Mr. Ken Dayton and the Waupaca Foundry and Farmers State Bank to get a new scoreboard up at Lakeman Field. We'll be ordering it here soon. It's all paid for by donations. The city will help with the install and the electrical. But it's going to be a memorial to Ken Dayton's wife, Louise Dayton. So her name will be on it, and it'll also say Lakeman Field. So that'll be up in the spring, and I'll make mention of that again. But I wanted to point out and thank the people involved with that, including Ken, the Waupaca Foundry, and Farmers State Bank. Fall Rama is coming up here soon, September 21st. So I just want to get that in everyone's minds. That's our annual craft fair. It's a Friends of Waupaca Parks fundraiser. We bring in a bunch of different groups and organizations, petting zoo, fire department, big trucks from Falks, race car, buggy things. We're going to bring in a magician and some new artistic stuff this year as well. So get that on your calendar as we move forward. We have unfortunately had some more issues, I feel, at the beach this year than we have in the past. Some with our inflatable slide. I have talked and worked with Chief Hosell a little bit to get a few more patrols down there and try to cut back on that. We also had to pull the inflatable slide, so we may look at a different option there next year. And it does make me glad that when we were going through the discussion as far as the docks, that worked out tremendously well this summer, that we didn't go with a bunch of inflatable stuff. So unfortunately, it's just hard to patrol that all the time, and stuff happens. So just want to make you aware of that. Food truck rally has gone very well. We're going to try to organize it a little bit more next year. I'll work with Aaron as far as a possible ordinance moving forward for food trucks into next year. And we'll try to incorporate that with some of our other events, such as a food truck rally into a movie in the park, and put it together. Try to make some nice community family events in the summer for people to come down and enjoy our park. Recreation-wise, all registration is open for our fall and winter programs on ActiveNet. Again, we changed that to open them up all at the same time to help families who are registering for a bunch of stuff all at the same time. That is it.
Andrew, did I hear that there's another competitive softball game again this year at Swan Park?
Yeah, we're going to beat the police department again on September 7th, Battle of the Badges, the second annual, I guess.
And that's at Swan Park?
Swan Park, September 7th. I think it's at
4:30. We do have one-day contracts that we have signed for this year for the patrol.
If you notice, too, one of their new hires plays BABA baseball. So I don't know if that had anything to do with the hire, but I'm just saying.
You still have an opportunity. It is a fundraiser, though, for both, right?
Correct. It's a fundraiser. I think we split it last year, if I remember right. And the sheriff's department is also involved. So it's just a fun community event, another chance to use Swan Park, and a good chance to rib each other a little bit.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. Any questions, comments for Andrew? Chief Ozell?
Thanks, Mayor, Council. My report can be found on page 20 through 41. Paul Benchwall is our new patrol sergeant. We had a process that we went through, and at our commission meeting, he was selected as being our patrol sergeant. He is going to start on August 26th, his duties. It's great because first day he starts, he's on call for the week. So it just worked out right for us. Secondly, I know we've all talked about storm damage. We did have some damage at the police department with the roof. Our fence went down, and when our fence went down, it landed on top of one of the squads. That has since been repaired. And then we had some damage to our alarm system. All those bills have been turned in to our finance director, Kathy Kaza, for reimbursement for that. So it could have been a lot worse, but that's what we had for damage. Also, because of Evans Street being open and being widened, we had put the speed board up, and then we also did some directed patrols or extra patrols in that area. So from the data that we collected from July 19th through July 25th, when I reported to the police commission, there's an average of 545 vehicles per day just going westbound on Evans Street, which is quite an amount of vehicles. The 85% of the vehicles traveling down that road were traveling 30.57 miles per hour. That's pretty good at keeping the speeds down. Officer Benchwall did turn in a directed patrol report after he gathered some more data. During that time frame, we spent 14.75 hours of radar enforcement on Evans Street. We had 16 stops, 15 resulted in warnings, 2 were citations for speeding, and there was also citation for no proof of insurance. So we'll continue to do radar enforcement in that area, but that's the data that we collected along with the speed board. And then lastly, we held our annual brat fry out at Fleet Farm, and we made approximately $850. And what we do with that money is we put that back into the community for community events. 2 times a year, we host the bread basket that this fund goes and purchases all the food, and the officers, along with other staff members, go over there and we serve food to the people. We also, this year, we purchased 2 less lethal shotguns. With those proceeds, that was not a budgeted item. And we found during the wintertime that our tasers and pepper spray don't always work. You know, if it's windy or if it's really cold, our tasers are not effective because of people having winter jackets on. So this was just another tool that we have, and those were purchased with those funds. And I believe everything else is informational.
Thank you. Chief, any questions, comments for the chief? Yeah, go ahead.
That was, average speed was 30 miles per hour?
0.57, 30.57.
Okay.
That's what the computer said.
All right, just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Josh, IT.
We had completed our phone system project altogether, the new phone system and everything that we've transitioned with phone lines. We switched what technology we were using with Spectrum, just to kind of get it more up to date and for some cost savings. And between that and some other phone line changes and some billing disputes with AT&T, we're looking at saving at least $360 per month. So everything with phones is done and complete. The process I've moved on to now, I've got 7 proposals for new copiers or new MFPs, multifunction printers. We've got 5 right now. 3 of them have leases or rental agreements that expire late this year, early next year, and then 2 we own and those two are aging where our maintenance on those is increasing. We've received some very competitive pricing from some different vendors on this, and I think that's going to be a tough process to go through there and select. I've got a staff work group that's going to be assisting with meeting with vendors and looking into that, and hopefully a recommendation to get approval from City Council late September, early October. Waupaca Online, we're still moving on with our expansion project in the northern half of the county. Staff has just set up 2 new access points actually in Outagamie County in Deer Creek. And we've got 2 more planned. We've got until September 30th for whatever work we're going to do to receive reimbursement on. And so far with the project, we've added 42 customers. That's what main points what I've got going on right now.
All right, thanks, Josh. Any comments, questions for Josh? Sandy, clerk.
Thanks, Mayor. My report is on page 45 and 46. We received notice from the Department of Administration that the preliminary estimate of the January 1, 2019 population for the city is 6,072, which is an increase of 3 people since the 2010 census. They also provided more information, which is in your packet. And then also, if you remember, a few years ago, Council gave the Administrator Clerk the authority to approve the issuance of the temporary Class B licenses for recurring events if they were the same as prior years. So I provided a list of the ones that I have recently approved. You'll see a couple at the VFW post, the Live in the Waupaca Way Farm to Table, as well as Oktoberfest. And then there's a Washera Classic League tournament. And lastly, Barb Robert and I will be attending the Wisconsin Municipal Clerks Association annual conference in Middleton, starting tomorrow morning through Friday. And that's it.
All right, Sandy, thank you. Any questions, comments for Sandy? Russ, you have anything you want?
I don't have a whole lot to report. I think most of my activities was centered on helping out with the new hire, the newest city administrator. Aaron will start on September 2nd, and then I will be helping him get accustomed to and coaching and mentoring him in the role of a city administrator. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Just a couple of things that probably Andrew Dean would have mentioned, or even Aaron in the future, but we do have a few projects that we're looking at within the community. One is the Dujensky property out in the industrial park. The steel is up there, and they're building that building there. You can also see, of course, that Gold Cross has their building getting close to completion there. You will see in the near future, remember that we made Nino Petrelli, who owns the apartments over here by St. Mary's Church, he had to come forward with a project, I think it was by the end of August. He's asked for an extension, and I think, Kathy, that's going to be till the end of the year.
Yes, he's going to be asking till the end.
Okay, and we're still hoping that he will come forward with a project for that property. And then one other, the Swiderski Rentals, which are across from Foxfire out on Highway 54 on the west side of town, they are asking to change that. If you remember, when you approved it, or when the city approved it, we put apartments in the back, and then there was supposed to be a commercial area in the front, and they actually put in the water, or the road in there. That has not materialized, so they're looking to do a project which would be a residential project there too. And they're working with city staff to see how that will work with them. Okay? I think that's it. Is there anything, Kathy, anything else?
No, we have some other stuff. We're working with Hinderfest in their temporary special event permit. But otherwise, we have some other stuff running through with the school district again, and some property division with, they're trying to sell some property again. So we're working with the school district on that.
Okay. Awesome. All right, let's go back and let's go to the Main Street project update and budget consideration. And Justin, you're taking the lead on this.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. My memo can be seen on page 113 of the packet. Josh, if you could help me switch over to the TVs in a minute here. Basically, we had on Main Street, our 60% plan was completed by SEH. We had a meeting on that where we got updated on the plans and then also the budget. So I'm just going to walk through my memo just to make sure we cover all the bases because we're at a little bit of an impasse here. Back in May of 2017, Council approved the design contracts for both SCH, which is the civil engineer, and RDG as a architectural streetscape engineering. As part of both of these contracts, the firms were supposed to help us acquire some grant funding. We sought several and have been unsuccessful to this point. The other part of the funding that we do have or have secured for some time is the STP program through WSDOT, Wisconsin DOT. That pays for 80% of eligible items, meaning standard DOT items, sidewalk, concrete roadways, that sort of thing, storm sewer. Standard lighting, we do decorative lighting, we have to pay for the upcharge. So with the recent plans, the 60% plans that were submitted as a requirement of the WSDOT process, there's a breakdown of what we have budgeted versus what the estimate has come up at. And as you can see, the roadway items, the utility items have fallen in line. The amenities have not, and that's where the grant funds were supposed to fill the gap. So right now, we have budgeted the city to borrow $1 million, or just a shade over $1 million for the Main Street project. With the estimate in these amenities, which WSDOT would not cover, we're looking at a borrow of $1.7 million. So when you add it all together at the bottom line there, I have a total project budget, which includes the utilities. You have budgeted for a $3.3 million project, and the 60% estimate is just a shade over 4. Going back in time again, we had a committee of the whole meeting at the Danes home. Most of you were there, and will remember that at that time, the consultants kind of described the project, what we were looking to do on the aesthetic side, and gave you several options and basically a range of basically would be a result of a project of $4.8 to $5.8 million to do the aesthetic treatments that basically, well, we want to see. I mean, with the steering committee, those are the things that basically the community came forward with all that and said, let's make this project great. Well, I mean, with what has been given as far as the estimate, we cannot obtain that, basically, is what it narrows down to. So we have a couple options here. We can increase the borrow. We can put all the chips in. We can increase the borrow for about up to $2 million, as far as Kathy has told me. I think those numbers would have to be double-checked. But that leaves no room for any other projects in '21. And we do have several projects every year that kind of get pushed back. We have several projects, equipment that are designated for '21. Or the other option is to basically adjust our landscaping plans and just eliminate all this additional fluff. I probably shouldn't call it fluff, excuse me, amenities, aesthetics, which would create savings. We could potentially create savings on the design contracts and also on the construction. Before I go ahead and give you an indication on what type of action that would require, if you could move forward to page 130, that's where I have included the design plans, just the landscaping plans, that is. So the first page is just a key, and then you move from south to north on Main Street, starting at West Badger, where the post office, chamber, and Simpsons is. You can see the bump outs, which we've been talking about from day one. that's there to shorten the pedestrian crossing area, so to try to create a better pedestrian area, safer, and slow down traffic a little bit. In each one of these bump out areas, you see this grid. That's just a different concrete pavement sidewalk, which is basically a decorative. It's just the key. We'd have a special cut in there, a special finish. That's where we're talking these additional expense for these amenities that would not be covered. We're showing some landscaping, bike racks, trash barrels. Going down the road, you have the standard sidewalks abutting against the businesses. Getting close to the road, we have a strip roughly 4 to 5 feet wide of pavers. Same thing as we have back here in the City Hall parking lot. We have trees, benches, and then we have these concrete modular benches, they're called, that look like these S-curves. Those are cast in place concrete, which means they're made somewhere else, just delivered here and set down. Again, another item not funded or helped funded by DOT. What they would serve, though, is a spot to sit down. They look nice. They delineate the difference between this is where people walk, this is not where cars go. So as you just go through the plan, you'll see all these aesthetic features. And that's kind of where we're at with this plan. We've done quite a bit of work of getting here. It's unfortunate that we're at this point as far as the numbers not adding up. It's very unfortunate we were not able to acquire this grant funding. But this is, I guess, this is the reality. This is where we're at. So we need to make a decision on this. The action that would be required or to get this project, I guess, more in line with the budget would be to renegotiate the landscaping part of the contract. So that's where we brought on RDG as a firm because we wanted this project that was, you know, very grandiose, had a lot of amenities. It was a qualification-based selection, so we brought them on, and we just, the numbers don't add up. We can't make it there. So if we continue on this path, we're either just going to be wasting everybody's time, or we're going to get to the point where we'll be spending a lot of money. So it's my opinion that we renegotiate that contract to get the design, basically funds turned down. You could possibly save up to $100,000 with that negotiation right off the bat. And then the construction will have to do the rest on our end moving forward to get that number down away from that 1.7 or even 2 for borrow. So, any questions?
So,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I want to just make sure that you understand this, and I know Justin said this before, but I just, when we hired RDG, the idea is that between RDG and SEH, they were going to help us to gain some grants. And we didn't get those grants for the amenities. And so we don't have those funds to do those amenities, but we still have a contract with someone to do those amenities, and we don't feel that we're going to be able to afford those amenities at this time. And so we've talked about other options. This, and just a little bit of history, this is not unusual. This has happened at South Park when we did the upper South Park project and in the building up there on the top. And as you look at it now, it's a beautiful building and a great project. But we did have to cut back on that because we didn't receive the grant dollars we received. If you remember right, when we did the Union Street, Jefferson Street, and then East Fulton Street, which I call the parking lot now around City Square, we had to reduce our costs there also, and basically the cost were the reduction of the amenities there also. We weren't able to put in all the amenities that were suggested by our design architect there. And so that's where we feel that we are in the same situation with the Main Street project right now. Some of these things I think we can make up by reusing what we have already, you know. We don't have to throw away things that are 20 years old, but we could still use them, you know, maybe with a little paint and stuff like that. So we've looked at ways to reduce the effect of not being able to put all the amenities on there. And I do think we want to do some amenities, plus we want to get the downtown businesses and the whole city to participate in maybe helping us with some of the amenities that we feel are important by donating either money or time to help us do those things. So that's where we're at really tonight. Scott, go ahead.
Justin, can we cut enough out of this downtown Main Street project to facilitate Kathy's future budget, what we want to do? You know, so I'm saying without eliminating pavement or something, you know, is there going to be enough cuts, or don't we know that yet? We're talking about cutting things, and I'm just, you said it may eliminate us buying capital purchases in
Yeah.
21.
Well, let's go this direction first. The most important part of Main Street is the water,
Right.
the sewer, and the road.
Yeah.
And then that also means that we have to redo the sidewalks.
Right.
Those are gonna get done.
They will, okay.
They'll get done,
Yes.
and they'll be within budget, because that's what you have budgeted to do those things.
Correct, because
Okay.
that's covered with the
That's
grant
kind of what I was getting
or
at. I
the
didn't-
state funding.
Yeah.
Without the grants, I wasn't sure if that was part of it or not.
Yeah, okay, so I didn't fully understand your question. Thanks, Mayor, but yeah, we want it to look nice. I mean, we want our downtown look great, but I guess what we would do is go through here and see these items that we just can't afford, or substitute them out with something else. Like I said, the modular park benches, it's a $200,000 item. Now, we probably can get park benches out there and have them donated, one form or another. These pavers, we can substitute that with a different type of pavement that would not be so expensive, have more coverage by the DOT funding, and take those steps. But we still want it to look nice, and we'll do everything we can. We're gonna get a brand-new road, sidewalk, water, sewer, that's all gonna happen.
Justin?
Okay.
Lori had a question
Yeah,
first here.
and I think the businesses are going to be excited to hear that, because that's always been like, that was so expensive. That was such an expensive item. So I'm thinking that talking with the businesses, they're going to be really excited that you're changing a lot of that, because it's just not affordable. They always felt it was not affordable.
Well, again, we are gonna try and cover that with grant money.
Yeah,
and-
right.
and that
You know,
grant-
that's yeah, but it's,
And we
they
didn't
aren't
get
getting
the
paid for
grants,
it.
and
If we don't
won't.
have it, though, we don't have it.
Yeah. Mary, you wanted to say something?
I might have forgotten my question.
You want me to go to Paul? Paul Neal?
Yeah.
So for cutting amenities, is the basic design, like with these bump outs on the corners, is that still going to remain the same? The crosswalks are going to be reduced in length?
The bump outs have to stay.
Okay.
We're gonna try and reconfigure those slightly. I mean, it's a 60% plan, so there's gonna be some changes no matter what we do.
Right.
But yeah, the bump outs have to stay, because that was when we asked for the exception to standards through the DOT, which we wanted to maintain the angle parking. The DOT that's not the standard for them. We asked them, can we keep it? They said yes. But they said the trade-off is keep the bump outs to increase the pedestrian safety and help slow down traffic. So that was the trade-off. So we have to keep those. So we'll have those some way, shape, or form. The geometrics may change a little bit to help accommodate turning movements a little bit here and there, that sort of thing. But larger part, they'll stay.
And to go along with that too, when we look at the bump outs, I think you'll see that that the staff recommendation will be to reduce those a little bit, so they're not go out as far as they were. And the idea is maybe to even reduce the size of the width of the sidewalks too, to give us more roadway too.
Right.
We don't want people backing out and crossing the center, and that's what you feel like when you're on East Fulton Street. We don't want to see that here, so we're gonna work with that to make sure that you have plenty of room to back out without getting into the ongoing traffic or
Well, that would have been a recommendation with or without the grants though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So we're saving $200,000 on the benches, right, if we don't put those in, but they can be put in later if we get donations, right?
Yes.
You're saying these fancy pavers up and down the street and then on the corners, they can be eliminated, or do you just go to a less fancy paver?
Well, they're an actual brick paver. You could substitute by doing like a stamped concrete or just doing a colored concrete. Or you can even just go with a gray concrete if you really wanted to. We'll have to work through that. All those have different levels of cost, but certainly the brick pavers that, just like the ones we put out here, you're looking at something that is close to 3 times the cost as a regular gray concrete.
I get it. I'm just trying to look for ways that we can preserve the looks and the newness of, because I think for the businesses on Main Street, it's important. It's an important marketing aspect to have a Main Street that really looks good. But maybe pavers is not necessary. Maybe the stamped concrete would do the job.
Yep. Right. Yeah, we've visited some other communities to see at their ideas, and we've grabbed some things that we liked, we didn't like. So, I mean, like I said, 60% plan. There's going to be some changes. By and large, this is going to be what we're going to get. But tonight's discussion is more or less on the budget and how do we proceed from here. So, I mean, we can charge ahead, and I'm not sure what's going to happen with our borrow at that point, but I mean, we're looking at something that's, at the maximum amount of what we can actually afford.
So is there any chance of these grants that we haven't gotten so far, is there a chance that we will get them in the future between now and the project start?
I don't believe so. I think that ship has sailed.
All right.
Russ, did you want to say something?
Yeah, the only additional comment I would make, and based on my experience, pavers are nice, but they're more expensive, and there's a lot more to maintenance as far as replacement. And, we live in Wisconsin, and we have frost that plays havoc with the pavers. And a lot of communities have been very successful in providing that distinct look by just using colored concrete or stamped patterns. So those are things that I think make sense as you would consider, the plans for Main Street.
Something that I didn't think about either, but when we were talking with downtown people and about this project and stuff like that, we're going from a sidewalk that's approximately 4 feet wide right now?
On Main Street?
Yeah, on Main Street. How wide is it?
It varies roughly about 10 feet. 10 feet wide, this
And
stretch.
how wide is it going to be after the project's done if we stay with this project right now?
We're looking at something that's more like 15 feet,
So,
16 feet.
and believe it or not, the people, and I'm one of those people too, that's an extra 5 feet that you have to shovel to, a number of times. So we have to make it so that they're willing to shovel that too. I think where our design engineers come from, they must not get as much snow as us because they felt that we could just pile the snow up at the edge of the sidewalk, and we don't do that here. We push it into the road, and our street department picks it up and takes it away, so it's all cleaned up down there. So there are some things that need to be.
Yes. One benefit of having it wider is that it makes it more ADA accessible. So blending out those grade changes is easier. However, we do have to make sure we have enough room for parking, which we have many conversations on, making the lanes wide enough to drive through. So all that comes into play, but certainly there are spots along this route here where especially in these bump out areas or here at Session Street, where, yes, we can probably bring that curb line in and narrow that down. So we're making that balance where we are having, it looks nice for the business, it's easy to walk, but the maintenance is not just through the roof.
And another thing that we talked about too, and of course we haven't talked to the organization about this either, but we saw what the arts community was able to do with our crosswalks. Well, the way these crosswalks are set up right now, they are cutouts. And so wherever you have a crosswalk, they're going to have to be cut out and then cement put in there. And that costs money to do those cutouts. So instead of doing those cutouts, we thought we could work with the arts community and maybe do something similar to what we already have right now. And that would be a savings to us, even if we had to pay for the paint to do those kinds of projects. So, you know, I mean, I think, Paul, what's gonna end up is it's gonna be a project that we want, that the Waupaca residents want when it's all done. Yeah. Scott?
Justin, could you touch on what kind of savings or how you're going to go about savings with renegotiating RDG and will we renegotiate SEH too, or how's this going to go? Or don't you know? Yeah, you
I
don't.
can't see in the future. I guess what I'm getting at is, you know, the design effort that was awarded was for a project that was $4.8 to $5.8 million. We can't get there.
Right.
So the design effort needs to be scaled back as well. And that's why I'm looking for the action to renegotiate. Since council approved those contracts, council has to give the action to renegotiate. What that dollar amount is off the top of my head, I mean, I have an idea. I'd rather not say at this
All right.
point. I mean, it
Yeah.
boils down to negotiations, so.
Sure, okay.
I mean, like I said
Well-
before, we have this, we don't want to be wasting people's times, whether it's ours or these professionals. We need to come to amends here,
Sure.
so.
Well, and SEH will have to pick up some of the stuff that RDG was probably contracted to do if we do come to an agreement. So their contract would probably increase a little bit, but, yeah. So the answer to both is yeah.
Is that a common practice to renegotiate, or can they say no? Just a question, maybe a lawyer question, I don't know what the contract says.
Well, yeah, it comes down to the contract wording. We've had a review of that before we came here.
Okay.
Obviously, so it wouldn't be
So it's possible. or
making a problem,
doable.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
One question, is there maybe a little bright side to this? Could we potentially shorten the construction time by eliminating some of the pavers and going with stamped or?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Just like the mayor was saying, you know, this decorative concrete takes more time. If we can just do it the old-fashioned standard way, we can get through it quicker, and we've had a number of those conversations as well. So yes, that is a bright point to try and narrow down that schedule and limit our disturbance to the local businesses.
This might be a good time to just bring up something that came up over the past weekend, and it's not from the Arts Board at all, but some citizens were asking and then started a petition started a sign up for people to express interest in when we do the downtown, that we do some sections of sidewalks where we etch in some phrases or poems or something like that on sidewalks. I have no idea how that would be done, but you heard it here. That might come up, the people that have suggested it may come forward and want to do that, which again, might be a great art project or community project that would beautify without costing more money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool that.
Right.
I think Justin was telling me too that him and Roger took a trip up to Marshfield. was it?
Marshfield, yep.
And they actually have pavers in the, and I'm not sure that we would do this, but they have pavers in the road that actually have the street names on there, and they're pretty fancy looking too, to tell you the truth, and they're not real costly to do those kinds of things too, so, yeah. Yeah, just like that. Thank you.
Oh, there you go.
Mary, that type of idea, we've had that conversation too, and it boils down to, again, the funding. But that type of thing, we'd be looking for volunteers or funding, help that, or like the crosswalks that have been out here, somebody does the work,
Right,
fine.
right.
Well, so what this, anybody else, what this really comes down to is we're asking, what Justin is saying is that we're asking that we renegotiate our contract with RDG, and we would hire,
Von Briesen has been our go-to firm for doing it because it's part of litigation.
okay, so they would negotiate, obviously they would come back to council with anything that they negotiate and get final approval from us. But that's what this is all about tonight, is to ask to renegotiate that.
Are you looking for a motion?
We are.
I would so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Mayo, second by Martin, that we ask our Van Briesen to renegotiate our contract with RDG. Any other discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Lori Chestnut.
Aye.
Dimitri Martin.
Aye.
Paul Mayo.
Aye.
Mary Fair.
Aye.
Eric Olson.
Aye.
Dave Peterson.
Aye.
Alan Keeland.
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
And Steve Hackett.
Aye.
9 ayes, motion carried.
All right, we've skipped around a lot on the agenda, but I think we've hit everything. So I think we're looking for, I don't know if we're gonna be able to, Paul Hagan's not here tonight, but we're gonna be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Keelan, second by Chestnut, that we adjourn to our next regular council meeting on Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019, subject to call. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carried. We're adjourned at 8:01 PM. Have a safe ride home, everybody. Thanks for attending.